So a lot of you have been asking recently when Season 10 for SnowRunner is going to be released, and thankfully I finally have a confirmed release date directly released by the developers, and that is the 18th of July. Now in this video we're going to be going in depth on what you can expect on the 18th of July, and yes, that is for PC and consoles, and we're going to do a little bit of in-depth discussion about what Season 10 actually is and the gameplay it's going to bring to you. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. Now, Season 10 will feature 2 new maps and 2 new trucks. 2 new maps being in the brand new Canadian region, and the 2 new trucks being the Kenworth on the left and the Mack in the middle, as well as the Mack on the right. This photo caused a little bit of confusion when the developers released it because people were like, wait a minute, what's that third truck over on the right? It's just the same Mack with a little bit more customization done to it. Now, since I've played this DLC a lot on the public test server since they actually started allowing people to test it, I have a pretty good grasp on what this season is like. And honestly, compared to some of the prior seasons, I have enjoyed this one a lot more. I think if you enjoy gameplay with a lot of variety in terrain, you're gonna enjoy this one. If you enjoy more technical driving, if you enjoy more mountain road driving, I think you're gonna have a really good time in Season 10. Now, as far as how you can pick Season 10 up, it's either going to be available as a standalone DLC, or it's going to be available included in the Year 3 Pass or in the Year 3 Anniversary Edition. Now, do I think the Season 10 DLC is better than Season 9? And I actually personally do, because even though Season 9 had that new firefighting gameplay mechanic, I wasn't the biggest fan of it because essentially all you were doing was delivering water over and over and over again. Now, if you actually wanted to have firefighting gameplay, it would have been really cool if there had been maybe some kind of mini game where you actually got to spray water out of a fire hose or something like that, but that never ended up being a thing, and because that never ended up being a thing, I kind of felt like the air quotes firefighting aspect of Season 9 kind of fell a little bit short. The maps were good. The map design was really, really nice. It was really enjoyable. I liked the visual elements, but again, the firefighting gameplay just seemed to fall a little bit short of what I wanted to see. Whereas in the contrast to that, Season 10, especially the environment in Season 10 in both maps, I tend to prefer the first map over the second map, but both maps are still good. I think both maps lean into the things that SnowRunner was already good at, and so if you enjoyed the maps, like for example, in the Yukon region, you'll enjoy these. Now, different from the Yukon maps, those were a lot more snow-based. These are not. But even so, I think these maps do a really good job of extracting a good gameplay experience from the system that SnowRunner already has. I think it leans into what the game is good at, and I think it sort of positions itself a little bit further away from what the game maybe isn't quite as good at. And I know that that might be an odd kind of analogy to use, but in my brain, it worked. Now, let me know in the comments if you think that works, but I really do think that that's what this DLC did a good job of. Now, are the new trucks any good? Well, it depends on who you ask. I actually really like the new Mack. I think the new Mack works really, really well especially for a vanilla truck. It's very capable. It's actually quite fast if you use the highway transmission. It does really well with a crane. It does really well with the rollback, and it does really well with trailers as well. I've done a lot of different testing with the Mack, and I think it's done pretty well for a vanilla truck in all of the different aspects. Now, the Kenworth is a little bit of a different story, though. So here's my take on the Kenworth. It's a gorgeous looking piece of machinery. It's an absolutely incredible bit of engineering. However, what ends up happening is it feels so, like, it's so large that it feels, A, it feels very underpowered, and B, the steering is so slow that you need to plan your turns, and I'm not even joking with this, round about a mile in advance. Now, I know that there's going to be people that are going to say, well, that's good, that's realistic, and I normally would agree with you. I think that that truck does need to have slow steering, and it needs to not be fast. However, there's a difference between a truck being slow and a truck being underpowered. It can be super slow and still have enough power, and speed isn't exactly what I'm talking about here. That truck feels underpowered in the way that you look at some of the things that, for example, the Mack can do, and then you compare that to some of the things that the Kenworth gets stuck in, and it all of a sudden starts to feel like the Kenworth doesn't have the performance to back up its sheer size. It almost feels like it's not big for the sake of, you know, all of the different ways that that can be applied throughout a gameplay scenario, but rather it just feels like it's big for the sake of it being, well, big. And it doesn't really feel like it comes with all that many benefits on top of its massive, massive size. Now, here's the thing though. If you like it, you're probably still going to get some decent playtime out of it, like I did. But I think it just kind of got to the point where that truck, its welcome sort of wore off a little bit. It wasn't as engaging over the long term as I thought it was going to be. Whereas the Mack, I keep finding myself going back and using it again and again and again because it's genuinely a good, effective truck. Now, moving on to the actual playthrough elements of Season 10, because I've played through a good chunk of the story contracts up to this point, as well as a lot of the in-game tasks, and I've got to say, in Season 10, they flow pretty well with each other. You never quite feel like you're at a weird impasse or an odd impasse where the tasks and contracts don't seem to line up and you're kind of confused. This does a really good job of making everything kind of really obvious as to what your next step should be, and it creates some really nice, smooth, enjoyable gameplay where you can just kind of kick back and enjoy the trucks. And I think that that's what SnowRunner does really well, and when you're trying to just enjoy the game after a long day and you're just trying to, you know, honestly, just drive trucks and enjoy them, Season 10 does a really good job of making that experience accessible. Now, what's cool about it as well is that this DLC lends itself well to being played either with mods or with all vanilla vehicles, or with a mix of the two, as I'm doing right here. Because again, I like this Mack. I like it a lot. It feels effective. It feels useful in campaign scenarios, but I also like that Dearborn 350, for example, which is a newer console available Ford F350 mod that works really, really well, and also using the IR Gooseneck pack, which is, again, one of the most popular mods that this game has ever seen because it's just that well made and just that effective. And now on to the part of the video where we answer kind of the main question, right? Like, if you don't have the Year 3 pass, is it worth buying Season 10? Especially if you haven't bought any SnowRunner DLC in quite a while. Now, if you have Year 3 pass already, you're going to play it or not. You've already got it. So we're not going to talk about whether or not it's worth playing if you already have the Year 3 pass. Because if you already have the Year 3 pass, jump into it and try it out. You might as well. You paid for it already. But as far as whether or not you should buy it by itself as a standalone if you don't have the Year 3 pass, I would say that if you're skeptical of it because of Season 8 and Season 9, definitely give it a good amount of thought, because Season 10, in my opinion, is better than Season 9. I know some people may disagree with me on that, but I found the firefighting gameplay mechanic to be a pretty decently sized letdown, and it ended up just being endless water deliveries that I personally kind of got a little bit frustrated with over time and just stopped, you know, playing Season 9 from a story mode perspective. So Season 10 kept me a lot more engaged than the Season 9 did. It also felt like I was doing something that mattered within the game world a little bit more. Like, it felt like the game world was evolving with me more as I progressed through it, and that really helped the immersion factor. I felt oddly detached from the experience in Season 9. Season 9, for whatever reason for me, I kind of always felt like I was playing within sort of a shell of a game world rather than a game world that felt like it was growing with me as I played through it. Whereas Season 10 really does have that kind of at-home feeling where you really do feel like as you complete the tasks and the contracts, it really does feel like the world is growing with you as you grow your fleet and you complete more tasks and you complete more contracts. It's a really engaging world that I think they did a really good job with. And with all of that being said and done, do I think it's worth buying? I personally think yes. However, I highly encourage you to get second opinions on that because, again, everyone values some slightly different things when it comes to SnowRunner gameplay and the types of gameplay that you enjoy. But if you enjoy technical hauling and you enjoy mountainous driving, I think you're going to have a really good time in the Season 10 DLC. But that is going to be your Season 10 pre-release overview and release date coverage. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Hit that like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see y'all next time.